I'm going to put it out there. I'm 55 years old and I do not know how to code, but I built a fully functional app, everything from a beautiful front-end design and website to the back-end engine, the database, and everything in between to run it by simply talking into a microphone. Yes, the barriers to build software have officially collapsed. No other time in history, maybe the internet craze of the 90s, but no other time in history have non-technical business owners like you and me been able to build real software to solve real problems in our business without having an expensive developer next to us or a big budget. I just finished my first AI hackathon, 3,500 women in AI group, 80 submissions, 15 finalists, of which my particular project was one of them. And I created a working app called Plotwise in 8 days from start to finish. Not with code, not with a software team, not with a CTO, not even with a partner, just me. And I did it by speaking into a microphone and using Claude Code. Now, if you're a realtor, a plumber, a lawyer, a consultant, or any kind of business owner, you've probably thought for years, I've got a bottleneck problem. I don't know how to fix it, and I don't want to hire more people. I've got a business idea that I really would like to explore, but I'm not technical, right? That's always the but. But I am not technical, but I don't have the money to hire a developer. All of that is gone. That excuse has just expired because the bottleneck isn't coding anymore. The bottleneck is whether you understand the real business problem you're trying to solve, can frame it out in a step-by-step process and articulate that verbally or by typing into this software like Claude Code. I honestly think people like us, Gen X, actually have a huge advantage that we're not realizing yet. We may be last to adapt to this because we weren't raised with a smartphone glued to our hand, but we're the ones with decades of actual business experience, business problems to solve. We understand how the world works. Those who adapt to AI and automation, who have that background experience, these are the people that are going to create massive amounts of wealth. They're going to solve their business problems. They're going to make their life a whole lot easier by getting time and money back when they learn to adapt to this new technology. By the way, I'm Anita Ortiz-Lupke. I am an ex-corporate banker from New York, turned 15-year real estate investor here in Central Texas, and I now own an AI and automation agency. I am Gen X. I was raised in the 80s with bag phones and DOS. I remember being taught DOS in high school. If this sounds like you, this channel is for you. My mission is to help Gen X business owners lean into AI and automation in a way that actually makes sense, without the hype, without the technical jargon, without the tech bro stuff that's going on out there. We're going to always tie things back to an actual business owner case because you don't need more theory. You need tools to solve the problems that you have. Now, I'm not saying this is magic and that it's super easy. Everything has a little bit of a learning curve. And the learning curve for Claude Code is actually the front end, and we're going to talk about that today. You need patience, you need some determination, you need the ability to iterate and go through things until they do what you want them to do. But if you can get past the setup and get used to using Claude Code, it actually is very easy because Claude does all the heavy lifting for you and creates the code that you need. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly how to set up your very first Claude Code project, step by step from the beginning to the end, and everything in between in simple English and non-technical jargon. And if I do throw any jargon out at you, I promise I'm going to give you a definition in a very simple way. What do you need to do this? You need your laptop if you want to follow along. You need a business idea that you're looking to solve or create a product for. And you need about 30 minutes. That's not to build the full app. That's just to set up the project for your very first time. The exact setup that we're going to use today as a sample is for Plotwise, the hackathon project that I submitted. So you're going to walk through how I set that up. What is Plotwise? It is a land feasibility tool that helps people looking at land decide what they can do with it, see zoning, get some images and renderings. It does a lot of things around land feasibility. All right, so before I jump in to building my project, scaffolding is what we call it for Plotwise, I want you as a business owner to be thinking about the types of projects and things that you can build with Claude Code, because this is where it gets fun. The sky's the limit here, depending on how much time you want to put into this. So if you're a realtor, what can you do with this? A listing description generator that writes in your voice, a buyer intake form that scores leads automatically, a neighborhood report tool that you send to every prospect. Those are just 3 things. If you're a plumber, HVAC, or other home services type of a business owner, any service trade, you can build a quote calculator for customers who can use it on your website. You can build it and put it on your website. An automated follow-up system that asks for reviews 3 days after the job. So get those Google reviews done. You don't have to worry about going back and asking for them. It's automated. A service area map that allows them to schedule appointment booking. So those are 3 things that you can do with Claude Code. If you're a lawyer or a consultant, you can set up a secure intake tool that pre-summarizes every case. You can create a document generator for NDAs, contracts, demand letters. You can create a should I take this client qualifier based on your business goals and priorities. But for any other business, you can create any kind of lead magnet, whether that be a quiz or a downloadable PDF. You can create an ROI calculator of some sort, a dashboard showing your business in real time. So again, be thinking about your business and the problem that you want to solve while you're watching this video, and then you can kind of figure out where you want to go from there. Just pick one, test on it, and it gets set up the same way regardless. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do beforehand. There's a few things that we need to download before you even get started. We're going to download VS Code. We're going to talk about what that is in just a second. You're going to download node.js, and you're going to get that from nodejs.org. This is what Claude Code runs on behind the scenes. You're going to download Claude Code and install the installation instructions you can find at docs.claude.com/Claude-code. Get all of those downloaded onto your computer, and you're ready to start your setup for your first project. This will take you 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how quick you are, but you can't do anything without these 3 things installed on your computer. So if you need to pause here to do that, go ahead and stop, and then you can come back and we're going to talk about what VS Code really is. All right, so let's get building. So let's level the playing field. What is Claude Code? Well, a quick explanation. Claude is an AI tool that lives on your computer and builds software for you when you tell it what you want it to do in very simple, plain English. Think of it like hiring a developer who works 24/7, costs about $20 a month, reads your instructions before every task, and asks before changing anything important. It doesn't call in sick, it doesn't leave in earlier, never asks for more money. You are not coding in this scenario, you are directing, and that is a big mindset shift for most business owners. The second thing we're going to use is something that's called VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Now, why do you need this? This is the part that confuses a lot of people. VS Code is what's called an IDE, an integrated development environment. In plain English, that means a workspace where all of your tools are already set up and talking to each other. And let's use an analogy here. Think about building a house. Without an IDE, you'd have a hammer in the garage, a saw in the shed, a measuring tape in your truck, blueprints on the kitchen counter, and paint in the basement. It's all over the place. And you'd waste half of your day walking between rooms, grabbing tools to finish the particular task that you're working on. With an IDE like VS Code, it's like having a fully stocked workshop. Everything that you need, saws, drills, blueprints, measurements, paint, all of it is in one room, on one workbench, and ready to go quickly retrieve when you need it to finish any particular task that you're working on. So why VS Code? 1, it's free. 2, Microsoft makes it, so it's not going to disappear tomorrow. 3, almost every professional developer uses it. 4, it connects directly with Claude Code. And 5, it shows you everything that's happening in real time. So skipping VS Code is like trying to run a business from a flip phone. Yes, you can technically do it. is possible, but it's going to be really, really painful and time consuming to do it. So let's explore the panels in VS Code. Today we're going to focus on just what you need to set up your project. There's a lot here. I want to keep it simple. The very far left is your menu. This is where you're going to open your project and you're going to find other icons to do different tasks. The sidebar next to that is your File Explorer. This is where you're going to open up your project, see your project folders, be able to click in them and show what's the content of those folders in that middle panel, and you'll see more of that as I go along. The main window is your desk. This is where you're going to read and edit files. The bottom panel is the status, and it's really the one that I use most often in a terminal format. Think of it like your assistant's desk. This is where you'll connect and talk to Claude via VS Code. When Claude builds something, you literally watch these new files and folders appear in real time. Even if you don't understand the code yet, you're going to see the work happening, and it's the best way to learn if you want to start to understand code. All right, so step one, let's create your first project folder, your main project folder, which is going to live on your desktop, your laptop computer. It's not off in the cloud. Go to your desktop, right click and create a folder someplace that you want it. For me, I have it on a document in my documents folder, and I have a Claude Code development file. You're going to create a new folder and you're going to name it. Mine was called Plotwise. You can name it anything that you want. It could be quote calculator, seller tool, ROI dashboard, lead quiz, whatever you want. There's just simple rules, all lowercase, no spaces, and no special characters. Why? Most coding tools hate spaces and weird formatting. Trust me, you'll save yourself some time later on. So now that we have our project folder set up, we're going to go into VS Code. So in VS Code, you're going to click File, Open Folder, and find the project folder that you just created on your desktop. Open it, and VS Code will probably ask you, do you trust the authors of this folder? The answer is yes, because you just built it, and click yes. All right, now we're going to open up the terminal in VS Code, and this is where you're going to connect and communicate with Claude Code. So don't be scared. It looks scary. The word terminal can just kind of throw a lot of people off. Just trust me and trust the process. So go up into the menu item. You're going to see terminal. Click New Terminal, and you're going to see the main panel break off into two, and that's your terminal on the very bottom. Now we're going to launch Claude Code. So you have to have a paid account with Claude to be able to access Claude Code. So hopefully you did that when you downloaded Claude Code itself, at least $20 a month. It's not a lot for the workhorse that you're going to get out of this, but I'm going to assume that you already have that set up. So in the terminal, just simply type Claude, hit enter, and if prompted, you're going to need to log into your Anthropic account. And once Claude opens inside that terminal, congratulations, you are now officially connected to Claude Code, and you've got a little AI software engineer that's powerful sitting right in front of you inside your computer. All right, so let's initialize our project. Let's go ahead and get what we call the scaffolding set up. Go ahead and type /init, initialize, in the terminal area. And this is going to create a file called Claude.md. This is your master project file. We're going to talk about what's included in that in just a second. But this file is the most important part of your entire setup. Think of it like your business brief. If you're going to hand a contractor a set of blueprints before you start a project, it tells everything that Claude needs to know about your business, how you want to be communicated with, and more, and reads that file first before it does anything else, so it follows the rules that you have set out for it. It also means you don't have to repeat yourself every time you want to do something. You don't have to continue to add or tell it the context in which you were asking it to do tasks. It remembers the rules, and your business logic stays consistent. All right, so let's take a deep dive into what the Claude.md file is, because it's really, really important that you understand what the success of your project is going to really rely on how good your Claude.md file is. And so we want to make sure that what you're putting in is the best that it can be. When you've typed in /init, Claude will actually create its own .md file, but it's very generic. So we're going to replace it with something that actually works and is much more robust. I've put together a free template. It's the same .md file structure that I use for every project that I'm doing now, including Plotwise, that we're going to talk about today. You'll find the link in the description below, but download it and come back if you need to so that we can walk through what the MD file is. All right, so we're going to get a little bit technical and go through the Claude.md file in some detail. It's the most important file because it really directs the project the way you want it done. It's the first thing that Claude's going to read before it does any task. So you want to make sure that you understand what's in this so that you can continually add to it. And this is where most people, I don't want to say screw up, but they take the generic auto-generated Claude.md file that you initiated when you did the /init. This one's more robust. You can get this at the link below in the description and replace your information into this template and you're off and running. So go ahead and download it. You can stop here and come back if you want to. Otherwise, it'll be there for you to access. Okay, so let's walk through this section by section. Project, one simple sentence. What are we building? We are building an ROI calculator for Joe's Plumbing that allows us to do estimates based on images sent from a potential client. Simple, to the point, direct. Claude now knows what we're building. The tech stack are the tools that you're using and you want it to be locked down. So the front end, back end, the database, the hosting, you may not know all of this up front if it's your first project. So don't worry about using the word locked unless you're sure you know what you're going to be using. Claude can always recommend as you go through this process. But for example, you might put Lovable as your front end because it builds a wonderful user interface and websites instantaneously, and you can connect it to Claude Code. So your front end might be Lovable. Your back end could be Claude Code. It could be Cursor. It could be any other kind of tool that you're using to build the back end engine that's going to run the system. Your database could be Supabase. Your hosting could be Vercel, any of those other things. Again, don't worry about it if you don't know it yet. You will figure this out as you talk to Claude during your project. But what you don't want it to do is have Claude suggest something different in the next session if you've already got something in mind. Key commands. These are the key commands. These are the shortcuts that you'll run over and over, like the command that starts your project. Drop them here so Claude knows your routine and you don't have to re-explain every single time that you come in. Your file structure. So this is a map of where your stuff lives. It's like a blueprint of a house. Your components are here, your pages are there. Claude reads this and never has to ask again, where should I put this? Your architecture notes. So these are your gotchas and your decisions. This is stuff Claude can't figure out by just looking at the code. For example, we use this database with these security rules, or Stripe webhooks hit this endpoint. Save your future self the headache and just clean all of that up in here. Your environmental variables. This is super important that you learn this up front. These are your API keys. They live in a separate file called .env. You never want to push this with your code into GitHub because then it becomes public and your API keys are exposed. So whenever you are dealing with API keys or MCPs or any existing exterior third-party software through Claude where you are being charged money and there's an API key, you want to house it in this env file because that's going to stop it from going off and being made public when you launch your website. Project security, these are your hard rules. Never hard code keys. Don't expose credentials. Don't upload my .env file to GitHub. Add project-specific stuff like all your admin routes need a role check. This protects you from yourself, in other words. Again, you'll learn this as you go along. We're just giving you an overview of what some of this stuff is. Brand and design. What are your colors? What are your fonts? What's your design system? You might do more of this with Lovable, but it's always useful if you're going to have Claude create a PDF or something. You want it to know what your brand aesthetic looks like and how to build it so that it stays on brand and it's not generic looking. Your reference files. So instead of dumping everything into a Claude.md file, it can your reference files. So instead of dumping everything into Claude.md, it can now point to other files. Your brand voice in one place, your API docs in another. You want to keep Claude.md as thin as you possibly can. Keep it scannable. Remember, Claude's going to read that MD file pretty much every time that it starts to do something. So you want to make it scannable, because the more it has to read, the more it's going to cost you in credits, and that becomes much more expensive. Your current status, so what's been built, what's broken, what's next. It's your history. It's going to update every time you make progress, so Claude can always pick up where you left off. Error handling. So what do you want to do when things break? How do you want to handle it? For example, don't retry paid API calls without asking. Document the fix so it doesn't happen twice. So every section answers a question Claude would have to ask you, and the more you front load it, the less you have to re-explain. Again, this is your first project. We're going to keep it slim, but as you start building more and more, you're going to learn that the structure and setting it up properly up front is going to save you a lot of headache and save you time, and more importantly, money. All right, so let's have Claude start building the actual scaffolding. We've completed our Claude.md file. It's loaded up and filled out. We're going to go back into the terminal and we're going to paste this prompt. Read the Claude.md file. Based on what you understand, create the full folder structure and starter files for this project. Use best practices for the tech stack listed. Explain each folder you create in plain English as you go. Don't write any feature code yet, just the scaffolding. Pause and confirm with me before installing any dependencies. What does that mean? You're telling Claude to go on and build the skeleton of the project, explain it to me as you go, but ask me before you install anything that costs me money or could break things. Once you hit enter, you're going to watch your VS Code sidebar. New folders and files are going to appear. They're also going to appear on your desktop Claude.md, your Claude project folder. This is your project being built in real time. And when Claude asks for permissions, you're going to get a lot of these. Read about what it's asking you to do, then approve. For your first project, Claude is not connected to anything yet. You have not given it permission to see all of your folders and files on your laptop. It can only function within that Claude project that you've set up. You have no API keys connected. You have nothing financial connected to it. So you're going to see a lot of bash commands. Just read through them. If you don't understand what they mean, copy paste into ChatGPT, and it will tell you if there is an issue that you need to be worried about. But for the most part, you're going to hit yes on everything and move forward. All right, so you've saw a lot of activity happening. Your scaffolding is now set up, but let's walk through and just see what came out of this process. If you don't understand what's in your project folder, the rest can kind of get a little bit confusing. So Claude has just created the skeleton of your project, and the exact folders that are in there will depend on the project that you're building. So you may not always see the same folders, but here's the pattern you'll almost always see. There's usually a folder for your front end, and that's what your customer sees. It's your buttons, your forms, your colors, the user interface. If you are going to have Claude Code create that for you, there's usually a folder on your back end. That's the actual engine that's going to run whatever it is that you're doing. This is where data gets processed, where pricing gets calculated, where the heavy lifting actually happens. Your customer never sees this. There's usually a config folder. That's where your settings live. Your API keys go in here. Don't touch this unless Claude tells you to. And then there's your Claude.md file, which we just talked about. That's sitting most likely at the top. We've already built it, and that's your playbook. So think about it this way. If you're a restaurant, the front end is the dining room, right? That's what your customers see. It's what they experience. The back end is the kitchen. Those are the prep cooks, the sous chefs. They're cooking, they're putting everything together, they're plating it, and they're getting it out to the customers. Your config is your manager's office, and your Claude.md file is your big fat operations manual. You don't need to understand every file. I just want to give you an overview. You just need to know where things live, because as you go through this process with Claude, he's going to ask you to reference certain things, and you kind of need to know where to go find things. All right, so now that we have our skeleton, our scaffolding, our folders are set up, we've told Claude what the project is that we're building and how we want it to operate. Before we go off and build this thing, you probably want to take 5 minutes to just stop here and plan it out, right? Think about the restaurant analogy again. Do you want to know that your menu for opening night is beef Wellington, but you haven't planned your grocery list yet, and you don't know who's going to be serving for you or the wine? You just know that you want to get to beef Wellington, and you've planned and printed your menu. Not exactly the order that you would go. And so planning can matter for complex projects, so that you don't go build a beautiful user interface on Lovable with all the buttons and everything looks great, and then build the back end realizing that you can't connect to this particular data source because there's no API key, or it's too complex for what you want to do, and your customers just can't handle the level of detail that you're asking for. It could be anything. So you want to, even on the back of an envelope, just plan out what should go first. And for Plotwise, that was building the free data available for somebody to get some general information on a piece of land. So what does that mean? So for Plotwise, it's a land feasibility tool. Somebody sees a piece of land that's maybe commercial, they want to put an offer on it, but they don't really know what they can do with it. So the free service on Plotwise allows them to put an address in and get back instantly zoning. So what's the zoning classification? What can they build on it? Storage unit, RV slots, whatever it is, and some general information about the property itself. That's the free tier. That's the easiest to build. That's where I want to start. That's my lead magnet. That's my step one. Then I want to go to step two. If they want more information, then they go up to an upgraded paid tier report, okay? I need to build pricing for that. I need to build what the report's going to look like. What data is it going to contain? Where am I going to get that data? What's it going to look like? How's it going to be branded and presented? What engine or what do I need to create that? So all of those components, it's not a tech stack you're looking for. You need to mentally think, where am I going to get the components to build this, and how do I want it built? That's what you mean by planning, and that's what's going to go into Claude, and do it in a logical order. If you don't do this in a logical order, what might happen is you've spent hours building this beautiful interface only to realize that you can't do something big on the back end. You have to start over, tear down, or spend more time fixing the front end to align with the back end. All right, now that we have a rough plan of attack, and Claude can help you with this, not Claude Code, but go back into Claude or ChatGPT, explain what you want to do and have it assess what the logical order is. So use that as a sparring partner, so to speak. But let's say we've got all of that planning done. It's now ready to start building. So go back into your terminal, explain to Claude Code, here's where I want to start. With Plotwise, I need to create this free version that gives me zoning, etc. I'm getting the data from an exterior third party. Recommend the smallest useful version that we can do to ship in one day. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is what I want to get done in step one. Don't overbuild, don't make it more complicated. You just want to start with your very first step to learn the process and get through that process itself so that you have the confidence to move on to the next level. And that's what I did in Plotwise. I built a fully functional app by planning things out ahead of time, dictating the features and understanding where I'm going to get the data, what's the pricing, and then I went into Claude and started building. I refuse to build features that nobody asked for. It's an MVP. I'm building this out of my own pain point and history and experience, doing the branding, the copy and the voice and the user interface, and then going to Lovable. So start with an easy project. Start with something you know, something you're passionate about, and map it out and try and build. All right, so let's talk about the building process. And I'm going to give you some tips here. You heard me mention go into Claude or ChatGPT to help you build and plan. That's one way to do it. That's how I like to do it. And then jump back into VS Code and work with Claude Code to build the thing out. You can also do this in Claude Code. But what you want to do is set yourself up in plan mode, okay? There's a button, a feature, a status in Claude Code that allows you to plan so that you're not using unnecessary credits. You and Claude are just thinking out loud. You're shaping things. You're making that plan of attack. And then when you're ready, switch it back into production mode and you're off and running and you're able to execute. I like working with Claude and ChatGPT just because I think the interface is easier for me to read. I can scroll up and down in my chats and reference prior conversations with Claude. It's just easier for me, but you may feel differently and want to do everything within VS Code because it speaks to you. Pick whatever fits your brain and how you like to work. There's no right or wrong in this answer. All right, so what have we done today? You have downloaded Claude, VS Code, Node.js. You've gotten your system ready to operate all of this software so that you can start building. You have created your project folder on your laptop or your desktop. That's where everything is going to reside that stays with you and connects to Claude Code to run the back engine for now. You have opened up VS Code and have opened up your existing project. You have worked on your Claude.md file and tweaked it for your specific project, your specific business goals, logic, needs, etc. And you've uploaded that into VS Code. That is your master file that Claude Code is going to read anytime it does a task and will follow your rules and logic. You have initiated your project, which is a big step. And you've asked Claude to build the scaffolding, which is the project folders that will hold all of the data and engines and things that are going to make this thing work for you. And you've given some thought about how you want to communicate with Claude, whether it's on Claude Desktop or ChatGPT or in VS Code. Find a way that makes you comfortable and speaks to how you like to work. That's it. You are now ready to go build your project. You have set up your very first project. Every time you start a new project, the process is going to be identical. Now you can go and set up because you've done the full setup, the full folder structure, and everything in between. All right, you are ready to go build your very first project. Again, if you want my Claude.md file template, just click the link below in the description and it will get sent to you if it's not there already. And you can go ahead and tweak and use this for every project going forward. Hit subscribe if you want more no-fluff AI workflows for business owners, want to learn things about Claude Code, how we can build in these tools to be able to solve our business problems. I'm going to start dropping these on a regular basis, so make sure that you subscribe before. Now go build something.